Welcome to the Pollute Your Soul podcast. We're here to pollute your soul with the truth, with a good time, and with love for yourself and the universe. We're here with Joe Nally, aka Pill Eaters, a writer, creator, philosopher, musician, and creator. Thank you for coming on to the show. I'm a big fan of your articles, some podcasts you've done, and especially your Safe Sleazy universe that you do, some shorts you do. So thank you for coming on the show. We have a lot to talk about. I'm really appreciative of your presence here today.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot, even for such a small niche community and internet people caring about internet users. It's a good thing because people take it for granted.
And one thing that's definitely captivated the internet is your Safe Sleazy video. So what kind of caused the creation of that character, and what kind of caused the mannerisms about him and the stories that he finds himself going through in those little shorts?
Well, to introduce myself short, the name pilleater was established on April 5th, 2009 on ytmnd.com. I went by other names before, like Cat Tanks and some older YouTube stuff, but I've been active on YTMD for many years. There was like the Moon Man Crew and Mr. Krabs. Oh yeah, Mr. Krabs, and things like that. So I was always behind the scenes with that. During that same time, I was going to community college, Temple University, and jumping around that Delaware Valley area. And it kind of, in the present time right now, I have my website at pilleater.com. I have an X, I have a YouTube, and I have, a TikTok. And Instagram was never really there. It was kind of just, Instagram's kind of a crappy platform. But the irony is that people share memes now on Instagram because Instagram's now kind of just in a broken silver age now. But I made this little funny meme on TikTok that was an indoor joke influenced by a Shredded Nerd video because I love Shredded Nerd. And I basically made this joke about being Safe Sleazy because you're either a podcaster, DJ in Bushwick with an Asian girlfriend, and it sounds like me. And people already knew who Pilleater was in that very anti-liberal scene because I had books out, I did music, I blogged on these topics, and this indoor joke supposedly got about 900,000 views on TikTok, and then people were mirroring it. Because I think what happened was I just used a picture of Curtis Connor, and I don't really care about Curtis Connor. I think a lot of those people were triggering the Curtis Connor fans, but at the same time, it's been deconstructed to take on the new manifestation of a character named Safe Sleazy. And so I thought, well, if people like that, then I just made some copy variants because I personally live the Safe Sleazy life. Now, for the word Safe Sleazy, I actually didn't make it up. One of my girlfriends named Sung-hee made it up, and she just said, I'm really into guys who are Safe Sleazy. I like guys who are like hip and whatever. And she said the term, and then I just co-opted it and just used it. And now it's now Curtis Connor is on a podcast program saying I'm not Safe Sleazy, and Hassan Piker goes, yeah, Safe Sleazy. Pilleater's been girl, and now it's seemingly from this private conversation in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, with a girlfriend has now became this kind of sensation among these post-left types and liberals, or just millennial culture or whatnot. But that's kind of the root origin of it. And honestly, I can only talk about what I know. And so most of Safe Sleazy is really done by using TikTok AI pictures I find on Google, recording my voice, which isn't AI. I'm actually Safe Sleazy does that, and then that. And then I don't know. I just think it's very confusing that people thought I was AI for a long bit. And up until, when I was getting, out to 10,000 followers on TikTok, and then I had up to 34,000 followers on Insta, right after my synth pop Sally gag, that's when Red Scare Podcast was like, oh, it's that fucking Asian Aryan Pilleater guy from 2015. And I can't believe it. He's running a bizarre culture conf Trotskyist brainwashing overtone window program. He must be a pedophile and serial killer. Let's get him off. And then they mass reported me. They basically literally cancel cultured me. I mean, this isn't the first time. I remember Philly Antifa tried to cancel me back all the way in 2016, but well, that's just a bunch of hardcore kids. But this is the game, really. they basically thought I was Curtis Connor and they wanted me to be a PC guy. But like, you know, the walls of the internet dictate that, you know, you are your own avant-garde artist. And honestly, kind of hell rock with it and keep going. And they just kicked me off
Yeah.
Instagram twice. They destroyed my account and I went back on Insta, got 4K, destroyed it. They said it was copyright. But I
Oh
have proof that
man.
it's mass reporting. It's mass reporting. They just mass reported me. As for the second time, they said impersonation because of the first one. I have a third Instagram account now. It's back to 300, but you know, hey, I still have 11,000 followers on TikTok and YouTube and X and Substack are doing fine. And Telegram, it's all there, you know, because meme culture is a grassroots thing. And so I
Definitely.
really do not care about Instagram. I think Instagram is a very nitpicky, old millennial kind of delusional pathos of sorts. And you know, if you're really on the internet, you got to use multiple platforms, and that's just kind of the way it is. And
Yeah.
I think it's sad
Yeah.
because people don't leave their platforms. But yeah, to make a long story short, I'm still pilleater. When people ask to make a Safe Sleazy birthday gag, I'll do it. Now I just have fun with it. And my friend who works at Adult Swim, we just make gags about it all the time. And everybody is real. That's the fun part. And they're all mad at me. So yeah.
We need the Adult Swim Pilleaterverse TV show one day. That'd be hilarious.
You should check out Safe Sleazy, the video game that was made by my Adult Swim friend. He works for like, you know, $1 Million Extreme CGI stuff and some other shows. And he gets like PS2 modded graphic stuff. And he did
That's
Safe
funny.
Sleazy, the video game. He hacked into Vice City and put a Safe Sleazy in the game and just put some Eurodance on it. And I was there in the studio when he made that. But, you know, that would have made 90,000 views on he actually, here's the funny part. When people are trying to cancel me, we got a clip of the Basketball Diaries where Leonardo DiCaprio shoots up the school and we put Kaim FDM's audios in it, and people were all freaking out. This Pilleater's a school shooter. This is a guy. I was like, that was the whole point, is that we're like hyper meta aware of the meta narrative, and we're like saying, yeah, we are weirdo artist types. And it's kind of like when you break character and you're like, oh, I'm Maggie Lee. I'm retarded. I'm gay, because I'm like actually dissing Maggie Lee. And that's the funny part of it
I
all, is
love
that
those
like if
ones.
you
Yeah.
don't get it, you don't get it. And
Or
that's like
the
you have to
Wigga
be.
dude that's like always wearing tattoos and like says the N word or something. That guy's
Oh,
hilarious.
welcome down, Dylan. Yeah, welcome.
Welcome
That was
down,
I was
Dylan. Yes.
commissioned. That was commission. Welcome down, Dylan. That was just like fuck you. You know, that was just all balls on the wall, being like, well, if you think I'm problematic, well, all of Instagram is now a problematic platform. So it's like, you know, Sam Hyde does it on a daily basis now. So it's like, it doesn't surprise me. That's what gets views. And that's what actually gets in. That's the game now. That's the whole joke and the pun. But yeah, I mean, you can download all the videos on Telegram. You know, I tell that all the time, or just re-upload them on Internet Archive or whatever, because I just, you know, go on and now I make my zines, I make my music, and, you know, right up until, here's the funny part. So some of my friends, we did a little comedy event in Manhattan,
A couple
and we
months ago,
advertised
right?
that on our channel. And so a lot of people came up for that. We sold all my books, all my music, and it was really successful. But like 2 days after, that's when they took down my Instagram account because I was making money.
Damn.
And
They
so,
got you. What
you know,
podcast was it? Tell me about that podcast. I might have seen like one episode of them before, but like what's up with that show? What is it? Red Scare or something?
Red Scare. That's with Dasha. And the point is that the whole Red Scare program, that was supposed to be like, you know, hip girls from New York or LA who's, you know, adjacent to HBO, want to talk about internet culture or post left politics, but they make it cool for girls. And
Mm.
so, you know, we were kind of excited, being like, well, if Pilleater's being talked on the Red Scare Reddit, what if Dasha says Joan Alley's Pilleater's name on the program? Have you heard of this guy who has a fetish for Asian women? What's wrong with him? He's probably, that would be cool because we'd get a lot of exposure for. But at the same time, it's like it didn't happen because most of the Red Scare audiences are basically uptight liberals who are in yesteryear culture of 2006, and Reddit
Yeah.
culture does not make, like, everybody's trapped in their own platform, believe it or not. People who are on Instagram do not leave Instagram. People on YouTube do not leave YouTube. Same with X. People do not leave X. And then you're starting to see a pattern here that we're now trapped in these echo chambers. And you tell people to find in other avenues, go on Telegram, go on this. They're not doing it. They're in echo chambers. And I think that's very dangerous, because that's like why we don't have the old internet anymore, where,
Yeah.
there's one hub and we're going to different places. But yeah, man, I think, you know, if Safe Sleazy's one meme, it's just a history on my resume of just doing these things over and over again. Because honestly, what if I made a new meme? What if I made another meme that I think is funny? A lot of people think, well, this is all just propaganda for Pilleater's project. I don't think that's propaganda. I think that's just the writer writes what they know. They write about their life,
Yes, and
and
sometimes like
everybody knows.
politically charged stuff can just be good, and it doesn't have to be all the fucking dude's politics. Like some shit written, like for instance, Paul Thomas Anderson's about to make a fully all alt left type of movie that you can just tell is all about those RCA type of people, like revolutionary communists and shit. But Boogie Nights is a fucking classic, and I bet this new movie he's gonna do is gonna be fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, you know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
I realize you have a movie poster of The Adventure of Joe Dirt behind. I saw that in theaters a long, long time ago. Adventures of Joe Dirt behind your.
Yeah, I'm a
That's a
big
good
Joe
movie.
Dirt
That's a good
fan.
film.
You should write an
That's a
article
good
on the
joke.
philosophy behind that. Yeah.
That's a funny film. I think a very like Bubble Boy, like Jake Gyllenhaal. It's a very funny film. Like they have very wacky '90s, 2000s era comics. But anyway, I have my own avant-garde film list. Like, okay, here's the thing. I consider myself a School of Visual Arts alumni. See, Rosemont College, Villanova, and Temple are my secret shame. Nobody wants to say you're from Pennsylvania when you're in New York. That's like a dirty secret you don't bring up. And because when you say you're from Pennsylvania in New York, they know you're not the right type of white person. They're like, get out of here. But the truth is
Why?
that
What
kid's
is
from
this?
Cleveland. I mean, that's just New York culture for you. If you're in Manhattan or Brooklyn, the, everybody wants to be from Brooklyn and New York and be a Cosmo and be
From
the top in
Bushwick.
the elite. Yeah. But it turns out that kid's from Kokomo, that kid's from Cleveland, this kid's from Milwaukee, and it's all a pattern here. Philadelphia is where it's second rate. It's where you've been kicked out. It's south of Staten Island. It's literally the sixth borough. It's South New York. And if you start to see the world like that, then you realize how the capitalist system and how materialism works and how class is shown to be an artist in this market. And but the truth of the matter is, it all comes from money. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. You're stuck in Delaware Valley and Manayunk or something, and yet you're making all this interesting art on the lowdown, and yet you'll have your little art gallery in Flatbush or Ridgewood when every other summer or something like that. But yeah, man, I think from what I've understood and from novels I write, I want people to relate to it because it's okay to be safe sleazy. It's okay to like these things. And I think there's a lot of still this weird Puritan culture of being shamed about liking these things, because again, we're on a fine line of what is political correctness and the power structure having an existential crisis and anxiety about how they should control the narrative, but they can't anymore because this is an old zeitgeist going out of power. And I think we're now in this weird effect where if we're talking about postmodernity, we're talking about the end of liberalism. We're not talking the continuation of modernity. It's the end of modernity, anti-modernism. And I think that leads to the ideal of BRICS and the inherent anti-liberal world sphere, which is inherently against the American ideal of the world, which is I think the government and the deep state is panicking about. But it's also a good thing because we can turn to ideals of paganism and whatnot. And, as for me as an intellectual, I find that normal. I think everybody should find that comfortable. I don't think that's evil or wrong or whatever. I think people, and you have, your ideals of libertarianism. It's very similar to that in that we find peace and goodness to a natural world. And I don't think I'm pushing that. I think people naturally go to virtue when they see it.
Yeah, I mean, we are headed to a different age. I think most the most apparent example of like a different modern world is like the rejection of kind of interventionism and like the wars and Zionism and the world banking system and this kind of like different social class. You can definitely see like both on the right and the left. There's this, especially with the Epstein shit or just anything else, really like um, there is a disconnect on both sides of the spectrum from the kind of old world. People, I mean, everybody fucking says boomer shit like it's the boomers, which is true, but there is definitely a disconnect, and we're definitely heading towards that. Like, what did you say was something modernity, like post modernity? Is that what did you say
So
about that?
end of anti, we call it anti-modernity or anti, because they'll tell
Yes.
you in academia, they'll tell you at Temple University, they'll say postmodernity is modernity, and it just continues, and that it's egalitarianism. Everybody gets the same. It's the ideology of sameness. Now, if you know your libertarian philosophy, I know you know Murray Rothbard. He said
Yes.
egalitarianism as a revolt against nature, and it's true. And I believe that ideal, whether you're libertarian or not, is what's happening. There's a transhumanist urge to defeat what is natural. There was another Murray Bookchin, who argued, post scarcity anarchy. He's saying that even if the left was to get its way, or this ideal that you do reach freedom as a concept, you would have to introduce transhumanist ideals of the world, meaning technology, to go against what is natural, so you could be a soul in an outside in a null machine or something. And I think
Yes.
that is why you see trans flags outside the San Francisco airport. It's not that we're
Yeah.
supporting the right to be a man for a woman. We're supporting an ideology of escaping the body.
I read something about your opposition to transhumanism, not just you saying it now, but I read something that you said about that. I don't really fully understand what is every time I hear shit about transhumanism, it sounds terrible, but I explain to me like I'm a monkey, what is transhumanism and why is it to be feared in this world?
Transhumanism is the ideal that humanism can go beyond the limits of humanism by transcending the limits of it. You're either a positive transhumanist, which you believe in, like, life extension, everybody gets a large penis, whatever, or you believe in negative transhumanism, which basically assumes humanity is evil, destroy the body, become whatever you like. Now, that has political implications because it has to do with ethics. If everybody is so set on both positive and negative aspects of transhumanism, I think it's more in the negative, because honestly, we do not like the modern world. We are literally building a Tower of Babel to reach God, so we become gods of sorts. But what's happening is that we are building a concept like Skynet AI, like in the Terminator films, or what you would call a singularity that knows all of our hopes and dreams. And kind of Google acts like this, where you type into Google, you write information. Well, Google is going to copy all that information stream that you have and create artificial constructs through AI of what you could hypothetically be. And they can make clones of you in the future. And so, in a way, the internet is a giant phishing scam. It's collecting data to build a singularity, which basically is a giant police state to create every possible subculture known to man, and has solved it like a Rubik's Cube. We're told that liberalism gives us all possible freedoms and what in philosophical concept possible worlds, or like Deleuze would call rhinestones. But really, we will not have possible worlds when everything in that multiverse has been solved as one data strand and a singularity. And so what's going to happen is that all possible worlds have been solved, and that everything is tightly controlled. Everything is just, you can be whatever you want. It's almost like an extreme version of libertarianism in a science fiction scenario, where some people, like philosophers like Nick Land, said what's going to happen is that there's going to be an extinction, or a thrill, or a thirst for annihilation, where this ideal of making things is just going, there's a time and space compression ideal that's going to basically accelerate to a point where there's nothing left in the resources in the universe, and we all just die into nothing. I mean, that's a very negative view, but some of these weird liberal nihilist types tend to believe that. But again, I think, aside from that philosophical concepts I've just said, think about how the American context of liberalism begat things like capitalism, where capitalism is supposed to functionally work where profit is rewarded for you doing virtue. And if that's the case, well, profit is outside that, a scientific, you can get profit, you can get profit by gambling, right? It doesn't have to be virtuous. But if you think about it, that kind of lines up in a way where you can be whatever you like and at any time, where you as a person, it's more like you're not having, I mean, I'm kind of going around in circles, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I would just say that transhumanism basically makes us more it's
Less human.
pretentious. That's
It
what
gets us
it's,
away from what we come from and could lead to negative ramifications, and that there is non sort of honorable ways. Everybody knows that people earn money within capitalism, and that's kind of to be feared. And I kind of get this, especially with like the gambling or like the normalization of OnlyFans and stuff. And that's why you see a lot of people like that's their like resort. I have nothing else to do, way to make money. I don't want to DoorDash, so I'm just gonna like sell my body online and shit. And it's like, I mean, do it, do whatever you want, but it is kind of like, really, is that where we're going to in this society? And you can make 100 arguments of like the people behind that or what that will cause and stuff. And so yeah, there's a lot of the transhumanism too. I see a lot of like famous like billionaires pushing that. I mean, especially Elon Musk. I forget what his grandfather was, but he was like a futurist or some he a technocrat or some shit. There's like some ideology that people in his family have about like where will technology lead us, and I think he's a wolf in sheep's clothing for a lot of people that follow him and admire Elon Musk. I'm not really that huge of a fan of him, and I'm not really a huge fan of these sort of chameleon billionaires shape shifting their ideologies based on who's in power. You could say that about 100 different fucking people right now in power. But so explain what is the Asian Aryanism stuff and what is AXA? Like I don't understand it. I mean, I read about it,
oh
but
yeah, I mean, that's a digression. I mean, yeah, I just remembered my thought. Mind if I go on digressions here? Because I think a mile a minute, and I'm like, basically, I just wanted to say quickly that transhumanism can be pretentious because ultimately, at the end of the day, we think we have the technology, but we don't. And it's this very weird Frederick Jameson postmodernity as late stage capitalism, which I entirely agree with. Now, AXA is basically a personal subculture of mine, an art movement that I made up around 2015 with a friend named Al Stankard. We were just, hanging out one night and we said, the hypocrisies of the liberal world is hilarious. What's going to end it? And it's like, yeah, everyone's just going to be like an Aryan that's like Asian. Because, the liberals feel this word called Aryan, which is like, has nothing to do with Julius Evola or like Hinduism. They take it out of context and they think of like World War II Nazism or Hitlerianism, where it's like, well, you're a blonde haired, blue eyed soldier. And, well, they did have a swastika. And a swastika is literally, a Janus symbol of birth, life, death,
yeah,
limbo, in that circle. And so much Asian esoterica is in there. And honestly, we both love that. I mean, we're fans of, Deaf and June, Dead Can Dance, Sixcom, David Tibet. We loved all that martial industrial. I'm a huge industrial person. Kaim FDM, Skinny Puppy, Juju. That's all what I'm into. But it's funny is that you have to use that kind of art to get it through there, so people can actually think. Alvin Plantinga says that the basis of philosophy is you thinking, and that art project started. I had a website called asianarianism.com, which was kind of just a meme website. I had a video and that got like 10, 20,000 views on YouTube, and even 4chan of me was talking to me back then. There was a lot of New York journalists trying to reach out to me. And at that time, I was just like, fuck it. I don't want to talk to these people because they're just, it's fabricated evidence. It's Noam Chomsky's right. It's manufacturing consent. That's what they're doing. And basically, I think the website got taken down in 2018. I didn't want to pay the bills. My friends were like, whatever. So I just started a blog spot and went rogue again and just focused on my YouTube channel. And that's where, the blogging comes about. And I've tried to explain this ideal to other people where the concept of Asian Aryanism is both this kind of weird church of the subgenius ideal, but also this relative thing that's happening. It's this ideal where, as white nationalism is getting more anxious and not finding enough white women to fulfill its quota. Most white men are, if they learned anything from multiculturalism, it's a eugenics program to get high IQ people on a bell curve to, produce to make sure smart people are on the top and stupid people are at the bottom. And I think that's whites and Asians or any high IQ person getting together, while undesirable or basically primitive minded ideals of the world are at the bottom, and everybody knows this. And that's why ultimately in a race realist ideal of the world, we are in a managerial state. We are basically ran by elites that think that it's an equity state where think people are different, ironically, yet you enforce the ideology of sameness, and yet you have to, if there's a strong person, you have to cut off their arms and make them smaller, or make a short person taller. And this is equity. But the irony is that there's no more work anymore. I subscribe to David Graeber's concept of bullshit jobs, or Bob Black's the abolition of work, meaning that there's a post-work identity of the world where today we're not really producing anything by artisan's means. We're not building a bridge from Staten Island to Manhattan. It's not that we have the money, it's just nobody wants to do it because we have some weird subtle post-scarcity going on. And so what's happening is that all the good jobs are laptop jobs where we log into Zoom, we press buttons, and we tell people to. It's a type of pseudo socialism under capitalism, and we're told that's adulting. And yet, this is what everybody in New York is doing.
Now I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I'll tell you this: it's a bell curve, because you can be getting $21 an hour working in Horsham, Pennsylvania, moving boxes in a truck for UPS, which they could easily replace you with a robot by a PhD in just 2 years, but they don't do that. Or you could be making $35 an hour in the comfort of your Bushwick house, logging into Zoom and, with a Slack server, nobody's watching you, and you're just you. You're just under house arrest, and you collect your $300 a day and you go. And the funny part is that those people that have the latter jobs all have college educations, all say the right things, all vote for Joe Biden, all are in the liberal class. And the former class, you think they would be Trump people, which is a pseudo. It's what's actually happening. It's a sea mass of basically third world people, Indians, Africans, people who do not have the IQ level to go up to the threshold to continue liberalism. This is like Jean Raspail wrote in The Camp of the Saints. This is a very Heideggerian green human biodiversity thing. What's happening is that people are just out of, because you're supposed to celebrate multicultural differences, and under the ideology of sameness, it just doesn't meld. And what's happening is, well, we can only get the same if I cut off your arms. And so we have a cowardly managerial class feeding its own enemies until they get stabbed. And there's a lot of people being freaked out of this in the Bay Area and in Manhattan. And they don't know what to do. And that's why some of them are having anxiety attack, because we've created a liberal semantics to make sure that only the ideology of sameness is up front and nothing else. People call it racist. I think that's just a word made up by a German guy named Magnus Hirschfeld, who had a Chinese boyfriend to justify his Asian sexuality. So again, I think it's very absurd that a lot of these old Cold World interests are falling down, and we have to use martial industrial art to get to the message again. Because again, those art galleries are only going to be understood by Cosmo people with a high IQ, right? And there's still this boomer fascination that the queer culture, I wrote a pamphlet called Queer Culture, that the ideal is that some unique, different individual is going to understand your art. And many people think there's going to be a black goth girl into Beach House that's going to like your IDM breakcore stuff. It just doesn't exist. She's a four-leaf clover. And so this fascination with queer culture is the problem among people born between 60 and 80. It just doesn't exist, because you're just having equity and
not all are like that meandering, and it just fuels an anti-liberal tide. And so this is my prediction, is that, you know, and I think this is true, when Donald Trump gets out of office, the next president will be a quote unquote based Democrat. It'll be someone running for Democrat, but this Democrat believes there's a difference in race. Men and women are not the same. Work is a fictitious idea, is an institution of mind. Men, violence is a natural occurrence of the world, and you have to develop space.
You're
and this is why.
I think, because he's like a little bit, he's not some like progressive type of dude. Like he is to a degree, but I think maybe that's who you mean, because he's like the most center left type of dude. I mean, who give an example of who you mean, if you would say that.
Well, here's the thing. I've been thinking from a friend about this, about Newsom. Newsom, even in a recent speech, said, listen, some of these third world immigrants can't do computer jobs. They can't know how to fly a plane. They can't be patrol officers. Just because of multiculturalism, you're going to put them in there. And so what he's really just saying, he's saying, hey, listen, only whites and Asians and high IQ people can operate because there's a difference of race and intelligence. That's what he literally said during his speech. But he said it in a very ambiguous, stop the third world, you know, and this is where, you know, why things are pseudo white nationalists nowadays. And honestly, I think Newsom will probably be elected out of the fear that things will become racial again. You know, again, I have to admit that, you know, one of my favorite books as an Asian studies major at Temple University was Shadows of the Rising Sun by Jared Taylor, who was once a Japanese academic celebrated by the works of Donald Keene, Edward Seidensticker, Jack Seward. He was supposed to be the heir of the Boulder Boys, but he started American Renaissance, which is, you know, the biggest white nationalist conference they have in Nashville, Tennessee every November. You know, and I just think that's funny. Somebody who speaks fluently Japanese, because, you know, part of being Japanese is knowing that you have heritage, that you have pagan roots, that you have primordial tradition. And I don't think these are right-wing things at all. I think these are natural occurrences of the world, and left and right is only something that the French Revolution has concocted in their head. And again, I
delusion, think, you know, that old kind of, it's not even irrelevant anymore.
Right. I mean, again, I guess I was digressing here, but all I'm saying is that Asian Aryanism would be a natural hypocrisy where the Disney Channel literally has Molly McGee and the Ghost saying that the working class family, you're just going to be an Irishman with a Thai wife and your daughter's half Thai. Turning Red, you're going to be Chinese Canadian. Big Hero 6, Japan and San Francisco are going to meld to Great One. This is predicted in its future. And here's the thing. The multiculturalists will say, but what about black girl magic? Well, we're not supposed to be asking about black women in general. We're supposed to be asking, why do black girls want to become anime characters? That's actually what's going on.
That is true. I actually know a girl who's like literally a president of the anime club, and she's black.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because she knows that the other guys are not going to like me if I'm fucking street and hood with a hot top Venus background. I'm not going to be supporting Chet Hanks. I have to celebrate by wearing anime things. Okay, this is what Christian Lander writes and stuff white people like. So basically, you know, I always thought it was funny that if a white guy likes a black girl, a white guy has to do black things to attract her. Look hood, start rapping, do things what he thinks a black girl.
Young Tay. Literally right. Young Tay.
And then the black girl, if she likes the white guy, she has to do white people thing, shopping at Trader Joe's, pumpkin spice latte tea, listening to MA83 and Elliott Smith, wearing plaid, waiting in line. There's nothing wrong with this, but it's a very Freudian, psychosomatic sexual urge that we're not allowed. We know through the text. It's like gay culture, really. When gay people are in the club, they have a handkerchief code and say, hey, I'm into this, I'm into that. Well, we're doing that in a weird Umberto Eco style signs and signals here while we're attracting a mate. If a white guy wants black girls, he starts a subculture called white boy summer. and we're white guys after black girls like Buzz Lightyear is. Okay.
Yeah.
But, there's never a black feminist point of view. If the black girl was to say, I'm into white guys, she's Uncle Tom's Cabin. She's a race traitor. Right.
How dare
And so I'm
she?
just saying, it's always, I know I'm meandering here, but I'm saying is that the racial interests are such a hypocrisy that there's an attack on beauty here. We know on average that it's hard to come across a black girl so honest that likes white men, but afraid to say it because the culture wants to stamp her out, correct? Well, you know what? You could say the same thing about, a white guy looking for decency of what is beauty. A white guy's not looking for ugliness. He's looking for beauty. All Asian women are beautiful. And so what do they call white guys when they're after Asian girls? Pedophiles. They call them fetishists.
They do. Yeah, they say that for a lot of, or like Latinas, like they're like, oh, you're looking for like a submissive Latina girl or something. It's like, I mean, any white guy, whenever a white guy says I like something, they're called like a fetishist or a fucking like
but here's let me think. But if you said you can't, it doesn't work for black girls. If you're a white guy, you say you don't have a black fetish, you have a jungle fever, it's positive. Because our liberal society, Christian Lander wrote it. He wrote it and said, there's nothing more better for a white liberal than having half black kids, especially Barack Obama running for president. And he's writing this in 2008. So again, it's this very Afrocentric, managerial, don't make the black kid scary or he'll kill us mentality. And Temple University should know that because it's right smack dab in North Philadelphia, invaded territory where impoverished, it's literally a racial zone. When the George Floyd's riot happened in Philadelphia, not only there was loot and rioting, right in the heart of Fishtown, the quote unquote Italians got baseball bats and ran around town trying to protect the community. It was literally a stormtrooper Italian style, patrol unit looking out, and they were defending. It was whites against blacks, But see, you can't call yourself white. You have to call yourself Italian because it saves face. Because white is a enemy semantic. Yeah, because when you're white, you're Italian.
Well, that's one thing I can't ever get behind. I mean, I understand the issue of police brutality, and I understand the general concept that people should be able to be with who everyone will be with, and I'm okay with that. But I would never condone the looting and stuff that happened when there is like a group of people that would come together with baseball bats just to protect businesses. I'm behind that more than the protesters, to be honest with you.
Well,
at the end of the day.
I'll say another thing too. I know is that here's why I'm not a libertarian. All libertarians I've known became ethno-nationalist because the basis of libertarianism is the ideal of property, proprietarianism, as said by Kurt Gödel. If you believe in property, you must believe in the ideal that your race is your property. My sister, my brother, these are blood bounded that I owe a piece of land in critical geography. It's somewhat true, but honestly, in such this liberal times, I can own anything. I can own the Japanese girl I had sex with. She's mine. Even though she's not of blood, it's subjective on ownership. And if ownership is subjective rather than objective, who's to say that I have primordial interest that I must be friends with the Ukrainian that wants to kill me and wants to kill other Russians? I'd rather take the side of the Russians and say that, no, the Ukrainians are a part of the liberal problem trying to eliminate the traditionalism of Russia. And so this is another thing that's a panic attack as well in Ukraine. And so again, a lot of libertarians became ethno-nationalists because ultimately at the end of the day, the big argument is it's what you owe. I owe this. Yeah. And what you owe, ultimately, if it's all about property, again, property becomes a subjective will. So many people say, if you have a Eurasian child, he'll be like Elliot Rodgers and shoot up the school. And he doesn't own anything. Well, yes, he does. He owns a Eurasian identity. And that is why I am such a staunch Eurasianist. The whole point of Asian studies being taught at Temple universities is a program for white guys to get with Asian women to make them more whitewashed through genetics to make liberalism more acceptable in the East. The whole point of Japan is that Japan has been colonized post-World War II. And when we talk about the cool part about Asia, G7, there's only one Asian country in G7. That is Japan. It is not Korea. It is not China. It is not... That project was also supposed to have Taiwan in there. it didn't succeed because Taiwan's going to be owned by China very shortly. And so what's grasping on is Japan. So what is Japan producing? What do you think would produce under liberalism? Video games, anime, pornography, food. That can't sustain
Yeah,
a
I
culture.
mean, nah, I can't. Yeah.
It's a slave mentality. Then once you have Indians there shitting on the streets, Muslims making mosques in Japan, equity state. And this is why I am a proud allegiance supporter for BRICS, the Xi Jinping regime, and North Korea and the Korean state, is because G7 is literally a force of Satanism that is trying to destroy the world of its transhumanist ideal against pagan values.
Yeah.
It is literally the ideal that there's something better for me. It's not Warhammer 40K, let's go to the stars and build civilization. No, it is what Gene Wolfe, the science fiction writer, called Ruganok, the endless winter. They want to destroy any possibility as Ushas, when the Hindu concept of rebirth, and they want to make Ruganok, endless winter, OnlyFans, prostitution, rape, destruction. It's like a Skinny Puppy song. It's like this: the masters deserve everything is evil. It's unethical. And ultimately, this is why, Jesus flipped the table against the Jews, is that the Jews were capitalist and Jesus was the first socialist. They won't say that, but it's true what was happening there. It's not that Jews are bad. It's that, there's this understanding that Jesus was the Messiah to realize that humanity and that God wanted you to be a virtuous being. And that this ideal of suffering, it's not that it's a self-hate or anything, but the suffering to the human soul it's more than just being animal and being arrogant and following orders. And I think this Christianity ended up becoming a precursor to transhumanism and such. But again, that's a lot said. I don't subscribe to those things. I don't classify myself as Christian, even though I like Alvin Plantinga. I see myself as a philosopher. But again, this is why ultimately I think of myself as ultimately a pagan celebrating Discordianism, where I don't think we should be practicing Trotskyism and culture war. We should be practicing Discordianism, where we do meme culture and pranking and basically disrupting the peace like Jackass, like Bama Jira style, Pennsylvania style, and just call it for what it is, what people have been doing. It is, this has been said in the work of Martin Heidegger and, what it means to be naturally connected to the world. I know what good is. You can't take that away from me. Now, I'm not going to say, this malaise, everybody's okay. I believe in ethics. And my ethics is against Malthusianism. It's against social Darwinianism. And it's against antinatalism, because I'm a champion of Eurasian natalism. I have a people. I have an art culture. I am willing to assert myself in pagan ethics to get my institutions across. And that's what people have been doing, whether it's Palestinians protecting their land or whatever. I don't think of that self as isolationism.
Free Palestine.
I think I just think, I don't think the answer is go to your roomism like the ethno-nationalists are saying, because again, ethno-nationalists are tricking you into Malthusian decay. That's the problem with racial nationalism, is that it says, just stay in your room, let the world burn. That's bad, because ultimately what you're doing is you're decaying the world into Ragnarok. So what I believe is spiritual natalism, that you can help Africa, you can help India, you give them a spiritual type of betterment program based on virtue ethics, and you punish what is wrong. And I think, the most smartest people know that. But that's just a long rant.
No, yeah, and definitely, I agree with some of it, and I disagree with some of it. And I remember one of you, this definitely does leak out in some of your work. And I remember you mentioned something in one of the videos about the wooden shoe, and I was fucking going to, I was going to just check out some comic book shops, and I checked out the wooden shoe, and I was like, man, yeah, I think I saw this one of Pilleater's videos. Let's see what this is, and I hated it so much. Like, what inspired that? I hated.
It's been there forever. The wooden shoe. It's been there since I remember in 2005. Wooden shoe. I mean, it's pretty much changed since then. But hey, there's a dude who works at Wooden Show that likes this heat, and I talk to him sometimes. And if I'm picking up The Holocaust Industry by Norman Finkelstein, I know it's there.
Oh, okay. Then there we go. I think I'll go back and maybe buy that then, if those type of books are there. But I just saw some. Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's a lot of overlays. If I'm looking for my critical theory book, yeah, I could trust on Wooden Shoe. Is it ran by PSL and Antifa? Of course it is. Is it a liberal operation? Yes.
But let's find a common ground here, right? That's what life's all about when you talk to somebody or go somewhere. Yeah. So why Bushwick, Brooklyn? Why that location for the creation of some of your stuff? What's up with that
It's
place?
the center of the universe. If you're on the East Coast, it doesn't matter if you're in Baltimore. It doesn't matter if you're in South Philly. It does not matter if you're in Boston or Connecticut. The East Coast is determined by Bushwick. The literal Times Square right now is Popeye's Chicken, Checkers, the Mr. Kiwi, Jefferson Street with Maggie Lee and Nicole Hamung. Fucking down that street, you have the Market Hotel, Mood Ring, Rash Bar. This is what makes up what then gets spilled onto Instagram. If you make an Instagram post with the Instagram post, New York, Vaporwave, those people are all congregated in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
Bushwick is the most hippest because out of New York City politics, it was the cheapest to live besides Williamsburg. Williamsburg was cheap in 2002, but then Vice magazine came about. That 20-year reign is over. Vice is now a shredded empire. Gavin, of course, has become somewhat of an anti-liberal himself. And honestly, everyone flocked to Bushwick. It's now became universal that if you want to live in these Bushwick apartments, you have to be white, male, Asian, female. That is the cosmopolitan class.
Yeah.
And it's became so fucking obvious that you have a cowardly Gen X generation that just wants to say, just shut the fuck up. I want to see MS Paint at Market Hotel. What the hell are you talking about? I want to go to secondhand records. None of this is happening. Listen, it's true you can have this culture, but it's a type of new boomerism like living in Lake Tahoe. It doesn't really make sense that much. And honestly, it's a great culture, but it's locked out. It is literally has become Martha's Vineyard for the millennials. And it's where you're going to be written up on Sex Magazine or some silly zine that's around the corner at the Bushwick Flea Market. And you will not affect what's happening at the Whitney or at the MoMA or some art gallery unless you have your little studio in Bushwick for, I don't know, $1,200 a month, doing your own thing, shaking your own hands, being with part of the blowjob kings, whatever. That's what's going to go down.
Is this where Julie lives? And also talk about why is Julie hiding her Vietnamese heritage, and why is she cosplaying as Japanese? And is this where Julie is from?
Okay, well, I mean, Julie's a real person named Julie, and she's actually from Camden. It's really based on another girl in Bushwick, but it's based on many different girls. But there's a real Julie, and she is a Vietnamese girl with the OnlyFans that pretends she's Japanese because that's what all the white boys like. And I guess that's there, but yeah, man. I mean, a part of the Safe Sleazy universe is just all my characters into one. And if I want to say something about Ryan, Ryan's real. Alex is real. There's Alex von Goldstein in Rutherford. I mean, I am Safe Sleazy. That's kind of what it is that it's just based upon my life as a big indoor joke. And the only thing I really like is that people like that I have good tastes in everything, because Instagram is literally a fashion market. And if that's the case, well, then must people know virtuously I'm a good person, regardless of my politics, regardless of what I think, is that how people comment and say, oh, you have elite ball knowledge. Well, maybe it's just because I'm smart. I have my MA from School of Visual Arts debt free. Yeah, most people don't have that. And honestly, it's funny when people, how do you know this? How do you what? And then it's like, well, I always knew it. You were some evil whack job. And it's like just not true, because again, it's target audiences. And if you really believe in the soul of a human being, you would overlook what these things you're saying and give the person a chance of what's really going on. And so, yeah, I just think, for what it's worth, I've made at least, I think, 70 Safe Sleazy videos, and for the last 3 months, and there it is. You can download them all on Telegram. It's the Safe Sleazy movie. They're all on YouTube, by the way. My YouTube channel was not taken down. And there's a Know Your Meme page and all that. And that's great. And people buy my books. And I look at Safe Sleazy as just one little microcosm of the artist known as Joe Nally. And so I think, if people were really supportive, they would know me as a person, buy my books, buy my music, read my blogs, meet me whatever. But I think, for the future projects, when I make new art projects, I think I'll be focusing more on other video art avenues and whatnot. But of course, I'll always go back to Safe Sleazy. People always
Yeah.
want to like joke, but I think it'll just mutate into something else, just like all meme culture, because I don't own this. It's literally a picture of Curtis Connor. I think people should just take the picture of Curtis Connor and just make what they want from it,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think we live in a really dark time where people can't be themselves. They can't be eccentric. There was a time where you could be John Waters. No, you can't. John Waters is problematic. People have became more cowardly. People don't
More
want to be skinny
collectivist.
puppy anymore. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think a lot of this is just art in a weird way, and you either get it or you don't.
Yeah, and I agree with the kind of idea that you should be able to like be your weird fucking self and not, you don't have to conform as long as it's not like fucking hurting anybody, which this shit isn't. It's
Yeah.
just fucking funny, But nah, thanks for coming
Yeah.
on the show. We covered a lot of funny fucking topics, and I hope to have you back on and we'll hang out in person and do some shit. But this was awesome. Where can people find you?
I'm sorry. Oh no. I'm sorry. Ideally we should like film each other and do this stuff and do like weird art videos, because that's what I love to do. But yeah, this is pilleater. I have a website, www.pilleater.com, youtube.com/pilleater. I guess Instagram.com/nallykun, KUN, unless they take it down. I don't know. My Twitter is x.com/realpilleater. Oh, there's a bunch of links. You can go find it. I mean, if you go to the main website, it's all there. You can just Google search pilleater and then it's all there. I don't know, man. But yeah, man, it's always nice to talk to you. Always good to learn something. It's always fun just to shoot the shit, right?
We will continue to shoot the shit, and everybody go check out his stuff. Stay after the call when I'm done my little outro thing. But that was Pill Eaters and Joe Nally. Definitely check his stuff out. Besides just the Safe Sleazy stuff, he's got some great articles. He's got a book out. He's got some good electronic music too as well. But everybody go check that out. And thanks for coming on the show, man. Peace.